This is term 2, week 2, and sociology. The first part of week 2, we discussed the ASA ethics code, and we discussed that in order to make a research or a query or an experiment, we need to have certain rules and ethics that need to be followed. Today's lesson talks about an experiment that took place in real life and violated all of the 5 general principles and 15 ethical standards that we studied and talked about. This experiment is known as the Stanford Prison Experiment. It was constructed by Professor Zimbardo, who's a famous sociologist and psychiatrist. The theory behind this case study was to find out, is man good or evil? Zimbardo wanted to find out, is a person naturally good or evil, or are the circumstances that people pass through and are put into, along with the environment, is what makes us good or bad? He also wanted to know, if a person is good, are the circumstances enough to turn him into evil? And is this process reversible or not? And if a person is bad, but we put that person in a good environment, again, is the process reversible or not? To run this experiment or to find out the answer of this hypothesis, he had to construct an experiment from scratch to prove his theory. How did the experiment started? We will read. You need to start reading with this part, the volunteers. What happened was is that Zimbardo put an advertisement in a local newspaper. In this advertisement, he wanted volunteers, or the advertisement stated that we need volunteers in a study about psychological effects of prison life. So, more than 70 applicants answered, and they were given a diagnostic interview and personality tests to eliminate the candidates with psychological problems, medical disabilities, or a history of crime or drug abuse. So they were left with a sample of 24 college students from the US and Canada who happened to be in the Stanford area, and they wanted to earn $15 day by day. So here, these are the volunteers who participated in the experiment. 70 applicants, because there was an advertisement in the local newspaper that wanted volunteers for a study about psychological effects in prison life. From these 70 applicants, we picked 24. Who are these 24? These are college students who lived in the US and Canada, and they settled in the area of Stanford. They wanted to earn $15 per day because of the study, and they had no psychological, medical, or crime problems. Okay, these students, you also need to know that they were healthy, intelligent, and middle class. The students were divided into 2 groups, guards and prisoners. How were they divided, or how were they picked on? With a flip of a coin. They did not know the people, they did not know the students. They picked the names and they flipped the coin, and they picked or divided the 24 into 12 prisoners and 12 guards. For the guards, for the prisoners, this is how the experiment started. On a quiet Sunday morning in August, Palo Alto, California, you need to know the place and the day, the month, a police car went and made mass arrests according to the penal codes 211, armed robbery and burglary. They picked the students, they arrested them, they charged them with the penalties, they warned them of their legal rights, they spread them eagle handed against the police car, and they handcuffed them. And they took the students away to the police station. When they arrived at the police station, the suspects were taken inside. They were warned again of their rights. They had their fingers printed and the complete identification was made. After all of these processes were done, they were taken to a cell, they were left blindfolded, and these poor students did not know what happened, so they would be arrested. What happened is that Zimbardo agreed with the police station, the real police station, to go and arrest these students as a part of the experiment. On the other hand, the guards were informed that you are in a study and your role is to act as guards and you need to take charge and make the prison disciplined at all times. Now, to construct the experiment, where did the experiment take place? It was in the basement of the psychology section in Stanford University. Inside the psychology department, there was a corridor, which was the yard. It was the only outside place that the prisoners were allowed to walk, eat, exercise. But when they had to go to the toilet, which was down the hall, they had to be blindfolded. In order to not to know where they were, they had to keep them blindfolded if they had to go out of their cells. To create the prison cells, they took the lab doors and they replaced them with made doors with steel bars to look exactly like a prison. At the end of the hall was a small opening where they put the cameras, and at the end of the other hall was a room known as the hall, which was used for solitary confinement. There was an intercom system that was built in the walls so that the administration could talk to the prisoners and they could let them know. At the same time, it was a hearing device so that Zimbardo can hear everything that happens inside the cell. When the prisoners or the students reached to the new experiment place or their new prison, they were systematically searched and stripped naked, and then they were deloused. These actions or the degradation procedures, why they were designed to be part of a humiliation system. Next was the uniform. The uniform of the prisoners had different parts. The first part was a dress or a smock. This dress was worn all times with no underclothes inside it. There's a reason for every part of the uniform. The reason behind this is that they were trying to demasculine or they were trying to make the men uncomfortable. The second part of the uniform was an ID number. It was written on the front and back. The goal is that to keep them or the use of the ID numbers was to make them feel anonymous. You're not special and you are not going to be called by your name, but only by your ID number. The third part of the uniform was the chain on their foot. The chain was on their foot is designed to keep them awake, to keep them alert with the fact that they are imprisoned, unfairly imprisoned. There's no escape, and even when they slept, they were not allowed to take it off. Finally, the stocking cap that they wore on their head, this was usually instead of shaving when real life prisoners go to real life prison. Now, one point to mention is that when Zimbardo wanted to design the prison, he had to use, according to the ASA Code of Ethics, he had to use experiences outside his league. He used one of an ex convict's experience who was a prisoner for 17 years. He explained to Zimbardo and his team what is it like to be inside the prison, the spaces, the design, the lights, all the small details that were inside the prison. Now, to the uniform of the guards. The guards looked like this. They had a khaki uniform, t-shirt, and pants. They wore mirror glasses. These mirror glasses were designed that The prisoners would not see their eyes. Why? In order to avoid any emotional contact between the guards and the prisoners. They also had billy clubs, or these plastic hard things that the police usually beats the prisoners with, or the guards beats the prisoners with. They also had a whistle around their neck to use it at any time. So these were the settings of the experiment. The next video will talk about how their day started, or how the day one in the experiment started.